When we picture a warrior, we usually imagine something like this: a machine built for pure, unthinking kinetic force. A fighter defined by violence and blind obedience loses the distinction between a hero and a monster. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that mere disciplining of thoughts and feelings means nothing. Unless the body itself is convinced and transformed, the ethics won't hold under pressure. To survive and protect, a fighter must undergo a transition that builds an identity from extreme contradictions. Isolated strength creates a highly capable automaton, one devoid of the internal checks required to protect rather than destroy. Martial arts philosopher Daniele Bolelli frames this as the harmony of the warrior and the princess. It is the psychological synthesis of assertive strength and receptive vulnerability. This merge is somatic realization. Physical lethality is counterbalanced by deep compassion. The body defaults to ethical action, even when survival responses compromise logic. Failing to integrate these forces causes a fracture, leaving either unchecked brutality or fragile sentimentality in a crisis. Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, embodied this harmony. Even in the middle of a chaotic throw, his posture remains relaxed and peaceful. True strength turns deep sensitivity into a source of joy. The warrior keeps power handy in case of need, but they lack the rigidity of those who never remove their armor. A warrior's development follows a specific arc, moving from mechanical obedience to tribal rules toward a state of autonomous ethical reasoning. Ruk Shektan, from Davis Ashera's A Warrior's Path, begins his journey as a strict enforcer of his society's rigid caste laws. But his worldview shifts when he chooses to defy his foundational dogma, risking his life to protect an outcast his society demands he executes. Louis L'Amour's frontier protagonist, Ken Sackett, makes a similar choice. Amidst a brutal war, he disarms himself to nurse a wounded enemy back to health. These stories show that the peak of the warrior's journey requires rejecting absolute tribal loyalty to uphold a universal standard of human rights. Transitioning this ethos into civilian and domestic life is often more difficult than the combat itself. Modern military training demands a state of psychological surrender and sensory deprivation to build a reliable survival mode. For veterans, returning home requires a deliberate dismantling of those survival instincts. They must find the courage to be vulnerable and emotionally present with their families. This struggle is mirrored in the warriors of peace, individuals who use that same refusal to surrender their power to wage strategic campaigns for justice. Harriet Tubman operated as a strategic commander, returning to the South multiple times to lead thousands to freedom. Her path was defined by a somatic confidence to navigate extreme external threats without surrendering her agency. Helen Keller undertook a similar struggle. Trapped in a silent, dark world, she used a warrior's intensity to build a somatic connection with the world, turning the pursuit of communication into an act of courage. The warrior identity relies on an unyielding, lifelong choice of courage over passivity. The culmination of this journey is the archetype of the bodhisattva. Unlike the standard hero who vanishes to a higher realm, the bodhisattva deliberately loops back down to their starting point. They return to put their acquired martial and psychological talents at the service of their community, using their strength to help others. The warrior identity acts as a protective limit on personal power, ensuring it is used to heal the fracture between individuals and their potential. This alchemy applies directly to our own daily reality. Contemporary battles are rarely fought against ultimate villains. They are waged against social isolation, mediocrity, and internal shallowness. The requirement for us is to consciously harmonize personal strength with empathy and choosing universal ethics over modern tribalism. Walking this path today means forging a synthesized identity that is capable of rewriting the rules of everyday life.